Hello BookTube, it's another day. Today is Friday. It is January the 20th. It is 7:51 at night here in West Michigan. I'm sitting here in the dining room. I am reading tonight American Philosophy, a Love Story by John Kaag. I'm really enjoying this. Been reading this for my my evening devotions. And as I always do when I read a book, I always keep notes of what I'm reading. So I'm writing notes as I read things, reflections and quotes. And today I'm on page 56 of my 2017 diary. We are on, tomorrow is the 21st. We've had 21 days thus far in the year 2017. We have 344 more days to go before we come to the end of this year. So I wonder what this year holds for us, what holds for America, holds for the planet Earth. So I'm writing in my diary, taking notes, reading American Philosophy, a Love Story. And not much else going on. I was going to show a bunch of used books I bought at a thrift store yesterday, but I'm not really in the mood. Maybe tomorrow night. My wife works the next 3 nights. She just left for work. So that's why I'm making a video, because when she's home I don't like making videos. I like sitting here being free to talk into this camera without feeling like she might think I'm going nuts. Oh, my husband's sitting in the dining room talking to himself. No. So anyway, I've been reading American Philosophy, a Love Story tonight. I've been reading in the morning for my morning devotions, Godly Prayer and Its Answers by John Brown of Wamphray. He was born, as I've said, in 1610. He died in 1679. This is a reprint by Soy Gloria Publications. For years, I collected Soy Gloria Publications. They reprinted old Puritan works, old writings from the 18th century, Scottish writers. So I collected these. I have a whole library of them downstairs, and I've shown some of those in the past, in past videos. This was first published in 1745. So, of course, this is not, it's a clear print. It's been kind of modernized, the language somewhat. But I've been really getting enjoyment out of it. Like this morning, I read this morning in chapter 4 of Godly Prayer and Its Answers. He says, first we may hence see cause of wondering at the great and merciful condescension of God, who will suffer sinners who have so rebelled against him, provoked him to wrath, thus to draw near to him and come boldly to the throne of grace. As it is in Hebrews 4:16, oh, what mercy is here, that rebels may approach the king and come into the chamber of presence and get a kiss of the king's hand in communion with him. What love is here, that God will suffer such unworthy wretches as we are to draw near to the Holy One of Israel and to make known our sins and requests to him. What condescending grace is here, that such as are heirs of hell by nature may come and talk with the Most High, and lay out all their heart before him and ask all they need, yea, and knock at his door and be importuned with him for satisfying return. See how Christ teaches us this and encourages hereunto by these 2 parables. One is in Luke chapter 11, verses 5 through 8. And he said unto them, which of you shall have a friend, and shall go unto him at midnight, and say unto him, Friend, lend me 3 loaves, for a friend of mine is in his journey, has come to me, and I have nothing to set before him. And he from within shall answer and say, Trouble me not, the door is now shut, and my children are with me in bed. I cannot rise and give him, because he is his friend, yet because of his importunity, he will rise and give him as many as he needeth. The other is Luke 18, verses 1 through 8. In both places there are great things held forth to this purpose, to encourage to prayer and to opportunity and constancy in prayer without fainting. Surely if we had right apprehension of the matter, we could not but fall wondering at this free grace, love, and condescension of God, who sets his door open to such as we are, that we may come even to his throne and tell him all that is in our heart, make to him all our requests, seek his face and favor, and cry to him, weep before him, and tell him all our ails and necessities. So I just thought I'd just read a paragraph. That's what it's like. I was reading this morning, really getting blessed. Godly Prayers and Its Answers by John Brown of Wamphray, republished by Silly Gloria Publications. And then in the afternoons, I read a book I got in the mail yesterday. It's called Shakespeare and Company, A History, the Rag and Bone Shop of the Heart, edited by Christina Halverson. This is a memoir of the very famous bookstore Shakespeare and Company in Paris, France. It's kind of like a history of that very famous bookstore. We remember that when it was first started back in the 20s, the woman who started it, her name was, if I can see here, her name was, oh, my mind just went blank. Her name was, started Shakespeare and Company 1919 to 1941, was started by Sylvia Beach. And she's the one that had James Joyce novel Ulysses. She was the first one to publish it, even because it was considered pornography, and nobody would publish it, but she, through her own private means, borrowing money, she published it, and now it's become one of the 20th century's greatest novels, Ulysses by James Joyce. So I was reading this today. It's the history of Shakespeare and Company. It was closed in 1941 due to the occupation of the Nazis in Paris. But another person kind of started. His name was George Whitman. And in 1959, he kind of like started again. I don't know if it was the same place, but he used the same name, Shakespeare and Company, which was okay with Sylvia Beach. This is when he was younger. He lived to be 93, but this is when he first started. It starts in the 1950s. It looks to the 1950s, and then it goes throughout the 60s, and let me see, the 70s, and it goes to, like, the 1980s and 90s. It's kind of like a memoir, kind of scrapbook. It has all kinds of photos in it. It's really a cool book. I have other books on Shakespeare and Company down the lower level in our library. I was going to bring them up, but see, it has all kinds of nice illustrations in it. I love bookstores. I love reading about bookstores, and especially Shakespeare and Company, because in the 1920s, Hemingway came there, James Joyce, T.S. Eliot, Aldous Huxley. In the 60s, the Beats came there. yeah, all kinds of very famous people. You have Annis Nin visit there, and yeah. So yeah, so I've been reading that today, really enjoying it. If you love bookstores, and especially the Shakespeare and Company is one of the most famous bookstores in the world, so I read that, and then I got this book in the mail at the same time as Shakespeare and Company, A History of Rag and Bone Shop of the Heart. I got this book, Life at the Bottom, The Worldview That Makes the Underclass by Theodore Dalrymple. I've been reading this. I read this before I started reading American philosophy. I was reading this, really enjoying it. I came across this somewhere on the internet, and it's called Life at the Bottom, The Worldview That Makes the Underclass. It says here in the back of this book, Life at the Bottom, here is a searing account of life in the underclass and why it persists as it does. Written by a British psychiatrist who treats the poor in a slum hospital and a prison in England. Dr. Dalrymple's key insight is that long-term poverty is caused not by economics, but by a dysfunctional set of values, one that is continually reinforced by an elite culture searching for victims. His book draws upon scores of eye-opening true life vignettes that are by turns hilariously funny, cheeringly horrifying, and all too revealing, sometimes all at once. And he writes in prose that transcends journalism and achieves the quality of literature. So I was reading this before I was reading American philosophy. So that's what's going on in my book world on a Friday. Like I said, I'm not really in the mood to show the used books I found at thrift stores yesterday. There's like a huge stack of them, and I'm not really in the mood. I'm kind of tired, kind of out of it tonight. I'm just sitting here in the quiet, reading about American philosophy, a love story, and writing in my diary, and waiting to go back to bed. And tomorrow is a Saturday. Tomorrow I once again volunteer at the local library used bookstore called the Book Nook. Maybe I'll find some used books to add to our library, to our book collection. So I'm hoping you're having that you had a good reading week, that you'll have a good weekend. Thank you for the new subscribers. Thank you for the comments. One thing else I was wondering, I had this question is why do you read? Why do we read books? Tell me, why do you enjoy reading? Do you consider yourself a true bookworm, or do you just read when you have the time or whatever? I'm just kind of curious about the people who subscribe. Are you bookworms? I mean, are you really in love with books and literature and writing and writers and poets and those kinds of things? So I'm just kind of curious. But until next time, have a good night. And until next time, bye.